Hi, everybody. I want to take the time and talk about goal setting so that you understand when I ask you or another professor down the road asks you, is your goal a SMART goal? You'll know exactly what we're talking about. So let's begin with some basics. Goals and objectives. I remember a time back when I first started in management, we would set department goals that aligned with our goals for I started in retail, so I would set store goals that would align with our corporate goals. Then we started to introduce a term instead of goal that was objective. And we said that a goal was just a direction. So, for example, if I wanted to say for a goal, we're going to increase sales, that's a goal. Then, if I were able to break that down and objectify it, I would have an objective. And the way that you would break that goal down to objectify it would be to say, make sure that it was very clear and very specific as to what we were doing. There was a way to measure it. It was attainable, and it was also relevant and time bound. Now, let's talk about each of those in a few moments. But first, I want to let you know that then I switched companies. And when I switched companies, objectives became the direction. So increasing sales became the objective. And then when we wanted to talk about the goal, we had to drive down into the specifics. What does that tell you? That tells you that it's useless arguing whether we're developing goals or objectives. The two terms are interchangeable, and it really depends at what level and what company we're working with. Now, typically, goals and objectives have reverted back to those original terms that I've talked at the executive level. So at the executive level in corporate, a goal really sets the direction, and then a good objective tells how we're going to achieve that goal. One of the things I used to do at Disney was to help executives think about goal setting. And we would always talk about the fact that we wanted to take corporate strategy, which a mission is a goal. Your mission statement is, and your vision statement, those are really goals that the company or the organization is trying to achieve. And what I would work with executives on is the fact that we wanted to take that top tier goal and find a way to break it down to a specific action that at Disney employees are called cast members, that a cast member would be able to work on and obtain the results needed. So we actually developed a pyramid model, and top goal up at the top, and we'd work our way all the way down to the bottom to where it was very, very actionable. Now, keep that in mind because I'll come back and talk about that a little bit later. SMART goals then are really just well-defined objectives. We have the top statement. This is what we want to do. And then we say, how are we going to do it? So it becomes an action plan. And when we take that action plan and make sure that it has most of, if not all, the items from the acronym SMART, SMART, we've done a very good job goal setting. So let's talk about these. And I'm going to share a diagram with you, there we go. A little chart that I hope will help you think through this in the future. So a SMART goal, if we go to the 3 o'clock position, think of this as a clock, and at 3 o'clock we have specific. What do you want to achieve? Who needs to be involved in accomplishing this? When do you want it to be finished? And why do you want to achieve the goal? That's being specific. Okay? By the way, those 4 questions are 4 of the 6 questions that journalists usually ask. Who, what, when, and why. All right. The other 2 are how and where, just FYI. Okay. So we've got what we need to be specific. Next, we need to find a way to measure it. Measurement is critical because if we don't know where we start from and we don't know where we end it, then we have no idea how our performance was. We measure everything. I'm a filmmaker, a videographer, cinematographer, and one of the tools that I always carry is my laser measure. I want to measure distance. Measure the ceiling. It's 5 feet for me. There we go. I'm just going to put this away. It's going to beep in a few moments. Okay. So next we have to ask the question, is the goal attainable? Are you able to achieve this goal, and what tools or skills do you need in order to do it? So we have a couple things. Measurement, how can you measure and track the performance? So that may mean that we need to use tools in order to do that. And so, are we going to use, for example, Google Analytics? Are we going to take a measurement ourselves and do a manual count? Not the smartest way. We want to use technology wherever possible. So some sort of analytic that's already captured, either Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics. There's a number of other programs that are out there. Next, we want to make sure that it's relevant. What does relevant mean? That means that it aligns up to the mission, to the top goals within the organization. Now, let me talk to you for a moment, because when we talk about top goals in a marketing department, you can probably go do it. Well, let's do this. The top digital marketing goals for 2022. I love this. 12 digital marketing trends that will define 2022. How to plan the best digital marketing strategies. Whenever you hear the term strategy, think of goals in 2022. There was the beep. Key digital marketing trends you need to know. Digital marketing trends 2022, and I bet this says 25 practical recommendations to implement. Those would be goals. All right. Now, I'm going to tell you something. We can look through this. Customer lifecycle opportunities. Let's get down into the 25. Recommendation 1, organic search, monitor, cure, update, and eat. Let's look at number 2, organic search, look at opportunities from structured data and search engine result features. So what they're talking about there is brand awareness. Whenever we talk about SEO, what we're really talking about is an organic search, or whether it's paid search, we're talking about brand awareness. And although it said 25, I guarantee you that I can take these all and break it down into four goals that are the top tier goals for any organization. Now, your organization may not need to work on all 4 of those goals this year. However, you're going to work on some of those goals this year, perhaps all 4. Okay, so what are they? Well, the first one is brand awareness. So when we talk, like I said, when we talk about organic search or we talk about paid search, we're talking about making sure that the brand is visible to potential publics, to potential guests. Brand awareness. Next is lead generation. Now, lead generation is one of those interesting goals, because it really encompasses everything that I'm going to tell you, but it can be looked at as a second goal, because ultimately what lead generation is doing, it's going to bring people past the awareness stage and get them to where they're interacting and engaging with the brand. Once we have them developing an interest and engagement, then what do we want? Well, we need to convert them. So conversion goals. You may think of that at the bottom of the conversion funnel, which is sales. And then finally, advocacy goals. Now, you may find articles and benchmarks that talk about these in a different way, but those are the four. Those are the top goals. So let's come back to our model here, and basically what we're saying is, does your goal align with your mission, or does it align with the top tier goal? And I'll tell you how you can always make sure that happens. And why should you achieve this goal now? So there's a timely component about it. We're not talking time bound, but a timely component. And then finally, time bound. What is the deadline, and is it reasonable? All right, I want to come back to relevant for a moment. What relevant is really saying is that if we take those top tier goals and then we say, how are we going to do that? As long as we've asked the question of the top tier goals, the second tier goal is always going to be relevant. And as long as your top tier goals are one of the four that I just mentioned, what are they again? Brand awareness, lead generation, conversion, and advocacy. We know we have relevant goals. Now, sometimes I see students do something really, really unique that they usually get dinged on it, and dinged on it pretty hard. And that is that they will say, I'm going to give you SMART goals. I'm going to first tell you what my specific goals are. Then I'm going to tell you the goals that I'm going to measure. Then I'm going to tell you the goals that are attainable, and then those that are relevant. And guess what? That is not the way it goes. Now, if you're making SMART goals, you want to try and be as specific as possible, because what are you doing? You're really creating an action plan. So use all five: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, if you can. You may not be able to answer and provide the complete action plan, but what are the ones that are absolutely necessary? Well, it's really all these components, but you may not have all the detail. So yes, it needs to be specific. Yes, it needs to be measurable. Yes, it needs to be attainable. It needs to be relevant, and it needs to have a time component to it. So let me swing here. Let's look at this goal. Achieve a 3% growth in sales over the next year. Is that a SMART goal? Does it have all the components? It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, it's time-bound. Yes. Now, it doesn't answer all these sub-questions, but that's okay. That may be the best we can do in that particular situation. Then we may have an opportunity. Let me bring this over so we can see everything. There we go. Let's look at the second SMART goal. Achieve a 3% growth in sales over the next year through the use of brand ambassadors generating regular social media content. I can even take that out further in my statement, but that statement is starting to drill down into the second tier. The second tier of questions that define a SMART goal. So there you have it. That's the basics of a SMART goal. And let me just come back and reiterate just a few things. And that is that for our purposes, we have only SMART goals. Okay? I don't want to see a goal that's just directional, or I don't want to see, depending on the vernacular that you use. I don't want to see an objective that's just directional. I want your goals to encompass the SMART model. Next, I want you to know that this is not something that just evolved organically. There were actually some pretty smart people that worked on how to improve corporate performance. And this SMART model was actually something that was derived back in 1981. You can search on the internet for an article by George Duran in the magazine Management, or the journal Management Review. And the article that he wrote was, "There's a smart way to write management's goals and objectives." So you want to, if you want to look at that at its origins and find all the nitty details as to what George Doran said, there you have the link. And I'll actually provide you the link with this video. All right, I think that's everything. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. This is Dr. John. Have a wonderful day.